Welcome to the BOSCHCAST with James Boschman and Denise Young, where we talk about Manitoba real estate and everything else that's on our minds.
And we're live. How's it going, everyone? It's James Boschman.
And Denise Young.
Thanks for tuning in. We have a pretty interesting topic today, something that we know a lot about. But before we get into the topic, we've got a couple local businesses that we'd like to shout out. So I'll go first. This is before I talk about them, I should put on my
Yeah.
hat. So for those of you listening and not watching, wearing a WM Dickinson's hat. So my local business shout out is WM Dickinson's. So it's a building material supply company and a hardware store based out of Niverville, Manitoba, where Denise lives. They've been around for a long time, and I would say most of the home builders that I sell for use WM Dicks as their primary building material supply company. So if whether you're looking to do a reno, like if you're a homeowner, they have everything. They have three large buildings on their property. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop. They have like kind of like your general hardware store, like a small town hardware store, but they have a lot more than just your average small town hardware store.
Yeah, they have so
Uh,
much stuff. They've saved us
th-
from having to drive to the city so many times.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so and then they have, more complex building materials like lumber and doors and windows and stuff like that. And then they also have a whole building that's dedicated to flooring. So if you're looking to do a home reno, or if you're looking to build and your builder is using WM Dickinson's, chances are they either have all of their flooring samples from WM Dickinson's to show you, or they will send you to one of the nice reps there to kind of walk you through all the flooring selections. And it is kind of overwhelming when you walk into that place because there's so much flooring.
Yeah.
But super friendly staff, like they're really great to talk to. They're actually knowledgeable, like they know what they're talking about when it comes to the flooring. Um, and then they have another building that's basically all cabinets and countertops. So you can, they have a different variety of cabinetry to choose from. Some local manufacturers in Manitoba that supply cabinetry. And they have some beautiful like displays set up there. And again, really great service, easy to deal with. Um, yeah, can't say enough good things about them. And all the builders that I work for that use them, really like their service as well. So um, yeah, can't say enough good things about WM Dickinson's.
Yeah. And they're a Benjamin Moore dealer for paint too. So, which
Oh yeah,
is to me important because, yeah, we always love to pick up paint. So,
yeah. And we're not sponsored by them, but who knows? Maybe one day they'll want to do like a sponsored ad for our podcast. That would be pretty cool
yeah.
because we do a lot of business with we sell a lot of new homes and a lot of those builders use Dicks. So
Yeah.
I think it's be a great partnership.
Yeah. Do a
So
collab.
yeah,
Awesome.
but yeah, that's my company, my local business that I wanted to shout out for this episode.
hmm Mine is Unger Meats. I
Oh,
had bought meat boxes as gifts for Christmas, and I think everyone was really happy with them. And
oh yeah,
what a neat place that is! It's like I thought it was right in Mitchell, but it's like a few miles out of Mitchell down a gravel road, and and so you pull up to like their farm basically, and they have a really cool storefront there, and they don't just sell meat; like they have all kinds of products. They have such a neat store. They have like gift items as well as all their meat, and they bring in lots of other food items from other local places.
Hmm.
So like they had like smack dab mustard and I don't know, Utafi and like just all kinds of things, right? And they had tons of barbecues.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're into the smokers and the barbecues and everything, right? So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's a really cool place.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I would love to shout them out. I know everyone was really happy with the meat boxes I ordered from there,
They were
and
so good. Yeah.
and Jameis has an onion allergy, and there was so many things he could eat from there. It was awesome. I managed to even get sausage rolls uh,
Ooh,
that had no onion. I was so happy.
that's
Hmm.
awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I was salivating when I opened that box, so thank you for that. That was a great gift.
That's awesome.
That's like yeah, I mean, you could lure me into a cage with meats. So, especially like smoked or cured meats, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, they did a good job of it.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's a great last name. That's my mother's maiden name is Unger.
Right.
Um, there's probably some sort of, if you pulled up the Mennonite family tree, I'm sure there's some, relation there.
Been somewhere.
But yeah, but my mom's side of family grew up in kind of like the Austin, Manitoba area,
Hmm.
like Gladstone, McGregor, those areas. So, but yeah, there's ties all over southern Manitoba. So it's a pretty common last name, I feel,
Sure.
in the
Yeah.
Mennonite community. But yeah, it's awesome. So it always feels great, like eating their stuff because it's like, this is my family, my family
Oh,
farm.
your family farm, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
It's very local.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
no,
awesome.
that's cool.
Hmm.
Um, so today's topic is all about the build process, which I'm really excited to talk about because it's something that we really cut our teeth on. But maybe before we get into it and talk about that, we'll just kind of share like it's basically the middle of January now, and I think we're second week of January. I'm
Yeah.
losing track of time. The holidays and New Year's and everything is just like
It's
a
the first
blur.
full week, but yeah, we are into
Yeah.
the second week. Yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like, a lot of bankers and lawyers and other people other than realtors in the industry, they are kind of, off the clock until January 7th or whatever, whenever people go back January 6th.
Yeah.
And so, it was a little bit of a delay. Um, I did a couple deals myself on Christmas Eve, and my wife wasn't too thrilled about that, but
No, I guess not.
you gotta strike while the iron's hot, and you can't really wait until um, you know, after New Year's, like a week after New Year's is too long to wait to deal. So
Right.
I guess when people are hot to trot, they'll go right to Christmas. Um, so it made for an exciting Christmas. Um, but I think, well, I don't think I know things are starting to pick up now. I have a few buyers right now that are
Yeah.
they're actively looking for something out there, but it's really challenging to find inventory. And so I've actually resorted to going back to um, expired listings,
Yeah.
listings that were withdrawn before the holidays,
Yeah.
and then
Usually my
checking
thing to do in January and February. Yeah.
checking to make sure that they weren't relisted or didn't sell with somebody
Yeah.
else, or and then just reaching out to realtors and seeing if their sellers are still interested in um, selling, if it's possible to get my clients in for a showing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's challenging. And then I feel like we're in a little bit of a holding pattern right now because I feel just anecdotally through conversations I've been having is that a lot of people they want to get a jump on the spring market because they know or they're feeling that things will pick up this year.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people they want to try to beat that spring market,
Right.
like having the ability to get into something now before, say, end of February, March kind of thing, when everybody starts, transacting is a really great option. But when there's no inventory, that's really hard to do. I feel like normally there's always like carryover from stuff that didn't sell over the holidays or
Right.
like pre holidays, and it carries over, and then it expires and it gets relisted. But there doesn't seem to be enough of that,
No,
or as
not
much of that now as there has been in the past.
right.
So I think people are just apprehensive because they know, well, if I'm going to sell my house, I probably need to buy something. And if there's nothing out there to buy, then why would I sell my house?
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, it's just a dilemma that we're kind of dealing with. But I think all signs are pointing to, a very busy spring market. And I mean, the reality is we got another rate um, reduction coming up, interest rate reduction coming up in end of January.
Right. Right as you come
Uh,
back. Yeah.
yeah, right as I come back from my holidays, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Um, I think that'll be like that'll be the catalyst for um, a lot of people to put their house on the market, and you know, a lot of buyers to realize, okay, stuff's hitting the market now. Let's go out and start shopping.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so yeah, things are looking up. Um, and then you know we'll get into the topic of new homes and why we think new homes could be a good idea for a lot of people. There's a lot of great programs out there right now for building a brand new home, and I know one of them is a you can borrow 90% of the equity to put in a secondary suite or an in-law suite in your basement. And I believe that's a new policy that recently came out um, on your primary residence. You can qualify for that. So the great thing about that, and it kind of ties into our topic of building, is if you are somebody who wanted to build a brand new home and put a secondary suite in with a separate entrance, you can do so, and you can borrow 90 up to 90% from 90% of the equity to fund that project of putting that
Right.
secondary suite in there.
Which is awesome because the majority of income suites is only 80%.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's a 30-year amortization rule, I think, right, Denise?
Yeah, the amortization rule just changed on December 16th, and it's they've expanded eligibility to all new builds and any first-time home buyers. So anyone who wants to do a new build qualifies for a 30-year. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Hmm.
pretty amazing
Yeah,
because that'll
it gives you 8% more buying power.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. That can be the difference between, being in an area or not, puts you in a
Right.
totally different price price bracket.
Right.
Um, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it should also help with affordability on your monthly payment too, because they're stretching the principal interest over 30 years instead of 25 or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, let's talk about building. So there's a lot of reasons why people might want to build a new home versus purchase something resale. There's nothing bad about buying a resale house. I mean, we love helping buyers and sellers sell all types of real estate.
Yeah.
But I specialize personally in new homes and new home construction, and there's a lot to love about new homes. So
Absolutely.
for anybody out there that's potentially thinking about building a new home, there are ways to go about it that are cost effective and that are energy efficient. Um, and it's a really great way to get what you want at the end of the day. I've worked with a lot of buyers that shop for a resale house, and a lot of times people um, they kind of settle, you know
Yeah.
They find something because they love the location or they love the property, um, and but maybe the house needs a lot of work,
Right.
and so they end up taking on a renovation, or they end up living in something for longer than they wish they had, without doing a renovation, because it's cost prohibitive to do so. And so the idea of building could be a way to get what you want in terms of the house.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and it could also be like a really great investment. Um, the first way it could be a good investment is, if you purchase or build a new home in a development that has multiple phases, where the developer is, say, they have X amount of lots in phase one, and then once they get through a certain amount of lots in phase one, then they open up the next phase. The likelihood of the lot prices going up after phase one to phase two is highly likely. So it's a great way to force out some appreciation and build some equity without really doing anything. If you got into a development where the lot is 100 grand, and then by the time they release the next phase, the lots go up to 120 grand, well, that's essentially your lot is now worth what the market is willing to pay at that time. And so you could justify, um, adding an additional 20K to the value of your home.
Yeah.
So it's it's a great way to build some quick equity. And also, building can be a great blank slate approach to, sweat equity as well. Like if you're building, a lot of people they'll say, well, if I build new, I have to do the deck and I have to do the landscaping and I have to do the fence. Very true if you're building in a new development, where there aren't already those things. It's different if you're building on a property, that's a mature property that's been subdivided, or, it already has trees, and maybe it's a rural property or something like that. But if you're in a new development, chances are you're going to have to do those things. But from my perspective and my experience, I know this, like doing this myself right now at our place. It's I would much rather do I'd much rather work in my yard,
Yeah.
and have a blank slate, like a blank canvas to work with, when it's nice outside, working outside, you're getting the exercise, you're getting the sun, and building the deck and building the fence and putting in the shed and doing the sod and planting the trees. Of course, the trees they need time to grow, just like
Yeah.
everything else. But the way I look at it is, you could potentially purchase something resale and have to do a significant renovation internally.
And living
And
without a kitchen is difficult.
yeah, and living without a kitchen is difficult. Plus, you could be opening up a can of worms,
Yeah,
right?
you don't
Like
know what
you
you're
don't really,
gonna find.
you don't really know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
So, um, it is also a great way to build sweat equity, in that if you have the ability, or people that have the ability to, help you do your landscaping and build your deck and do all those things outside, um, you know, that can really help increase the value of your home pretty quickly.
Great.
So, and then there's leverage as well. Like as your property appreciates quickly, um, you can then use a home equity line of credit as a tool to borrow against that equity to do a lot of those things,
Yeah, you could
that you
then
need to do
borrow
right away.
against to finish the basement.
Yeah. And from my opinion and my experience, banks tend to look a little bit more favorably on properties that are newer, where you're looking to borrow against your equity to do things such as, landscaping or a fence or something like that, versus, um, doing a full gut reno on a house.
Right.
So, um, So yeah, there's a lot of pros. I mean, there are some cons as well. Um, not having the maturity, not having the trees and
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Not to say you can't get that. You can always try to find a lot in a mature area, but typically those lots will come at a price tag. If you're looking to buy in, say, Old River Heights or something like that, because you love the maturity, I mean, you'll pay for that. So it's
absolutely.
it's always possible to find what you want, but you know, um, how cost prohibitive will it be? There's also the idea of building on your own property. So if if you're somebody who has inherited a property through the family, or um, you come across something and you purchase land and you kind of hold on it or sit on it for a while, there's also the ability to hire a builder to come and build on that property as well.
Yeah,
Um, there's flexible financing options when it comes to building as well, where you can, potentially save money. Some builders will actually, with the right deposit, purchase land on your behalf and then package the build cost and the land cost in one mortgage. You just give one deposit and they finance the whole thing all the way to completion. So the benefit of that is, you can hold on to your hard-earned money and have it earn interest in your savings account versus giving it all to a builder. Um, and then you don't technically pay for the house and start the mortgage payments until you take possession. Meanwhile, you get to design the house the way you want and pick out all your materials and go through all that as well. So um, the benefit of doing for some people too is you have the potential to save on land transfer tax when you build. So if you're purchasing resale and you buy a $600,000 house, well, you have no choice but to pay land transfer tax on the full amount. But if you decide you want to build and you have the capital up front to, say, purchase the land, or um, give a larger deposit, there may be there well, there will be an opportunity for you to save on the land transfer because you're only going to pay it on the value of that land
right.
instead of the total purchase price. So um so there are, pros to building for sure. Maybe we should talk about the process of building. If
Yes, how
somebody
do we
is
start the process?
Yeah, so somebody is interested in building a house. I always say the first step is to call us, so that we can sit down with you and kind of, talk to you about your wants and what you're looking for, um, about your ideal house design for you or your family, and the plans. We have a ton of house plans that we have in our inventory over the years, and we can kind of show you different ideas and
Mhm.
walk you through different plans and give you advice as to layouts and different construction methods and stuff like that. And then at that time, we'll go through your budget. Um, you may not know what your true budget is yet. So we've partnered with some amazing mortgage professionals that we can set you up with, and you can talk to them, if you don't already have one, and you can get your pre-approval in place. They can also run through the options with you as to the financing. Um, whether they have if it's a mortgage broker, maybe they have lenders that can do construction mortgages. If you're
Right.
dealing with a credit union, they're a little bit more receptive to doing construction mortgages. Um, but if not, the turnkey option with a deposit is always an option as well. So um, typically at our step one initial meeting, we'll talk about all those things. We'll talk about, where you want to be. Um, what location do you want to be? Do you want to be outside of the city? Do you want to be inside the city? Do you want, a mature community? Are you okay with being in a new development finishing your landscaping and doing your trees and everything like I described. And then we'll talk about all the specs. We'll talk about the building specs. We'll talk about what's typically included, what's typically an upgrade.
Right.
We'll talk about servicing requirements. Depending on where you want to be, the lot in which you want to build on may have different requirements for servicing. So like sewer and water and hydro and gas and approaches and driveways. Are there trees that need to be cleared? These are all things that are important to know. So typically after we kind of figure out like all of the important details and the meat and potatoes, and we kind of have everything hashed out, then we can work on, finding you a property, whether, if it's not something in a new development, then us as realtors, we can source that property for you. We can pound the pavement and call around and try to find and secure a lot for you. But if it isn't a new development, we can go through the available lot inventory with you and talk to you about the various requirements and restrictions in that development. Usually there are things like side yard requirements and setback requirements and landscaping requirements, and what type of fence can you build if you build a fence, and how long do you have to do your landscaping, all that stuff. So we kind of walk through all that. And yeah, and then once we have everything dialed in terms of the location, the lot, the pricing, the specs,
With
everything,
builder. Yeah.
with which builder,
Yeah.
and you're happy and you're ready to move forward, then we move on to step 2, which is typically the contract. Now, every builder has their own contract, and these contracts are typically, I always say, builders aren't lawyers. They don't understand real estate law most of the time, so they hire professionals to draft their offers or their contracts for them. So, depending on the builder, they may have a different contract. And these contracts will have mutually beneficial terms that protect both the builder and you as the purchaser. And they'll also outline in detail the responsibilities of the builder and the responsibilities of you as the purchaser, um, so that there is a clear expectation and a guideline moving forward. Um, and then there will be, just like a normal offer to purchase, there'll be a spot for you to write the price in, deposit, conditions. Typically, you'll have conditions for financing, you'll have conditions for a lawyer's approval. You really want your lawyer to review that contract on your behalf. And that way, if they have any questions or concerns about the wording that, the builder's lawyer has decided to put in there, then at least they can question and deal directly with the builder's lawyer on it. So, it gives you an opportunity to kind of have somebody in your corner that understands real estate law, review all the terms and clauses and conditions, and, advise accordingly. And if any changes need to be made, then, they will do so between the lawyers. And, this is where you'll give your initial deposit typically. Whenever you're writing an offer in Manitoba, you have to give a deposit. It makes that offer legally binding. And so in most cases, it's like $1,000 or something like that, the initial deposit. And, that will be held in a trust account. And if you cannot satisfy your conditions within the time allowed, then your deposit will be returned to you, free and clear, and we move on. But if you do satisfy conditions, then typically, if it's a turnkey completion deal, the builder's lawyer will require, a second deposit of the balance of whatever that total deposit amount is. And typically, as long as the builder's lawyer has that amount, then the builder can prove to their bank, if they're doing a turnkey mortgage, that they have, their minimum requirement for deposit, and their bank can then lend them the construction financing to take the house all the way to completion.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and then some builders actually have a design meeting as a condition in their contract as well. It depends on the builder, but you know, one of the builders that we work with, they definitely do that, and we find it's beneficial because it creates transparency with materials, so you know exactly what the options are when it's time to pick your flooring and your cabinets and your lighting and all that stuff. It's all kind of laid out for you. And that way, if there are any upgrades after that meeting that you'd like to make, at least you have all of that pricing and, availability prior to you satisfying your financing condition.
Right.
If you decide that you need to add some of those upgrades, if you choose to do upgrades to your mortgage, you'll have time to do that. So that is if the builder is offering that service, it can be pretty beneficial just for transparency, but also, so that there are no surprises later on. But some builders that don't have that, it's fine too. You just got to make sure that they have good suppliers, and those suppliers have clear expectations as to, what the standards are for the specifications for the build. And some of the builders that we work with that operate that way, they have great working relationships with their flooring suppliers, like these guys, or cabinetry. And the builder can meet with you to go through all of those selections with you, or they can send you to the supplier. That can also be done as a condition if somebody really wants. So now, once you satisfy your conditions will have deadlines on them, just like any other offer to purchase. And once you satisfy those conditions, then it's considered sold. The deal is done, and the builder's lawyer has the ability to call for that second deposit if there is one. If it's a construction finance deal or construction mortgage, then typically that is when you'll pay for the land, and then your lender will issue draws to the builder in a series of draws. Typically, it's 4 to 5 draws kind of thing. And then that's it. And then throughout the process, you know, you'll have essentially deal directly with either us or the builder. Our job is to kind of help facilitate, move things along. Any questions that you have as a purchaser, it's our job to kind of, relay those questions and answers accordingly. But I would say for the most part, the builders that we work with, they're pretty communicative, and, they like just picking you up as a client and kind of putting you into their system and dealing with you directly. So kind of making you a part of the family, if that makes sense. So that would be step 3, is the finalization. So finalizing your contract, um, and then through that finalization, giving the second deposit, or paying for the land. And then if there are any additional design meetings that need to be set up through the process, the builders can facilitate those with you directly as the client. And then also arranging walkthroughs of the property. Some builders have fairly strict policies as it pertains to showing up on site during construction without somebody
Workplace
being
safety
there.
and health. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just goes towards, builders want to be mindful of, it is a construction site, and we can't have people falling in a hole or getting
Right.
crushed by a wall or something like that. So
Yeah, they
it's
don't want their job site shut down because someone got injured on site that shouldn't have
exactly.
been on site.
Yeah. So typically most builders have policies where they need to have scheduled walkthroughs with you,
Yeah.
because a lot of times there are on-site decisions that need to be made. Biggest ones are electrical. Where do you want your pot lights to go? Where do you want your your plugs and switches to go? How high do you want them on the wall? Things like that, kitchens, um, making sure that everything kind of lines up the way you want. And um, so the builder typically does, multiple site visits with you, walkthroughs, construction walkthroughs with you throughout the process. But I always tell people, if there's ever a time when you want to get into your house and you want to poke around or you want to show family or whatever, just let us know. We have we have the ability to meet you on site and kind of show you around. And honestly, we like doing that anyways, because then it helps us to get some up-to-date progress photos or videos of the process, um, so that we can keep those for you and um, kind of show you or compile a section of photos or like a file for you throughout the process. So I found people really like that. Um, yeah, and then that leads us to step 4, which is the final walkthroughs. So and possession date. So final walkthroughs are basically the builder will set up a couple final walkthroughs typically with the purchasers. They're supervised with the builder or one of the builder's representatives to bring people on site, bring the purchasers on site and walk you through your house and outline any defects or deficiencies before you move in. It gives them some lead time to fix if there are any deficiencies or issues, to fix them prior to you moving in, so that once you're living in the home, there's no intrusion of guys coming back and forth and fixing things. Now, the one thing I will say is we live in Manitoba where it's you know winter until
June.
March,
Yeah.
June. Yeah. Um, so
Well, I was thinking
ty-
for cement, right? Like
yeah.
driveways.
So typically the builders will set what they consider to be the occupancy date, which is, possession date. But if you're building a home that's being carried through the winter, chances are there will be unfinished items that'll be left over, that the builder has to come back and fix or finish, I should say. And those items could be things like concrete driveways, if there is a concrete driveway, or exterior stucco,
Yeah,
siding, soffits, fascia, eaves,
brick.
downspouts,
Yeah,
brick, stuff like that. And then the big one is grading.
yeah,
So typically builders are responsible to either do what's called a rough grade of the property, just to make sure that the water drains away from the house, so that there's a positive slope away from the house. Most developments or subdivisions, the either the city or the municipalities will have a rule where you have to do the final grading. So typically the builder will complete the final grading. Obviously, they can't do that while it's -40 outside, so they will typically come back when it's weather permitting and when it's not a muddy mess outside.
exactly.
So, um, yeah, and then possession date. So, um, typically on possession, from my experience, the builders have always kind of been with the customers on possession, or a representative of the builder. And this is where they'll hand over the keys typically, or they will, and they'll kind of do a once over again, just to make sure that if there were any touch ups that were done properly, and also to kind of give the purchasers a bit of an overview of how to use certain mechanicals in the house,
Yeah,
HRV, how to set your humidity properly, um, things like that. You know, central air, sump hoses, how to clean your HRV filter, um, how to check your furnace filter, just different things that you should know. Um, Sometimes it is encouraged, if you're somebody who's building, but you don't really understand a lot of construction, especially new home construction, sometimes it's actually beneficial of what we found, just for buyers to have an overview, and a proper run through of their home, is to actually pay a home inspector. Get an inspector, third party, somebody that you trust, to show up with you on possession, and just give the house a once over, um, and show you how to use certain things. I find like people have a really hard time explaining, but people also have a hard time learning how to use their HRV. So to have somebody come in and show you that, I think is beneficial.
I have a great
Um,
video on my YouTube about how to use it and maintain it as well.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so typically the, possession, the builder will release the keys to you, and then the house is yours. You can start moving in. Um, and if there are any items that need to be touched up or finalized where the builder has to come back to do so, they'll have something in writing for you to sign that outlines, um, deficiencies, or a list of items that need to be finished, weather permitting. Both parties will sign, and it kind of outlines, rough dates when those items will be done.
Yeah.
Some builders will agree to holdbacks for unfinished items, so that essentially the lawyer advances the funds, with the exception of the unfinished items. And typically, both the builder and the purchasers will agree to put a value on those unfinished items, and that money will be held back. But there are also some builders that don't do that.
Especially
And
in developments.
the newer developments, it's less common because the builders already give pretty significant deposits, security deposits, to the developers when they purchase the
Yeah.
land. And the reality is, if they don't come back and finish those things, then they're out that money. So,
And they
it,
probably
it, it
won't be able to continue in that development.
exactly. So there is some protection there for purchasers
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then the builder gets their money, and then you get your house, and you know the one thing that I'll say is, for the most part, are the builders that we work with, they have really great aftercare service. So, warranties are always a requirement when you're purchasing a new home or building a new home, and builders are required to provide a new home warranty. Um, some builders will provide a 1 year, essentially like a bumper to bumper, if there's any mechanical issues, plumbing issues, electrical issues, anything that results in, the house not functioning properly or the way it's supposed to. It's in the builder's best interest to send somebody out to fix that. Um, but then on top of that, they have third-party new home warranties that are actually a requirement. If you are putting any less than 20% down, the builder needs to have a third-party new home warranty registered against the property. And so that can be anywhere from 5 years to 10 years, depending on the program.
Right.
And typically those new home warranties will cover a list of things. And then there's a list of things that they don't cover. But it's important to kind of review that, you know, list of items, and be satisfied with it. But typically it's there to protect, as an insurance policy, to protect, from issues due to structural things that are structural in nature, like foundations, and, you know, load bearing walls and beams and joists and stuff like that. So,
Right.
um, and again, if there is ever an issue, it's in the builder's best interest to fix it, because if they don't, it's just like any other insurance policy. If you decide that you don't want to do it, then your premiums go up. And builders don't want to pay high premiums on their new home warranties. So, they're always encouraged to fix issues if there are issues, but they're really there to protect you as a homeowner, you know, from issues that are caused by defective workmanship.
Right.
So, and that's pretty much it. And then you can, once you're moved in, you can start doing your landscaping and doing your deck and your fence and all that kind of stuff. Most builders will have relationships um, with other tradespeople that have the ability to do all of those items as well, like landscaping and decks and fences.
Right.
But from my experience, with the exception of maybe decks, most builders don't like doing fences, and most builders don't like doing landscaping.
Right. So if they're subcontracting it, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Typically, it's going to be more because they put their subcontracting fee on there to manage
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And versus if you have the ability to do it outside of, let's say the mortgage, then you'll save quite a bit of money that way.
Right.
So, but yeah, that pretty much sums up the build process.
That's the build process.
Yeah. So we do a lot of new home construction, and I always encourage if people are looking into building, if they're semi-interested or they have an area in mind that they want to build or a house plan, just to reach out to us, and we can set you up with the right builder, and we can kind of walk you through that process as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, don't wait to see something on MLS, because a lot of that stuff doesn't show up on MLS.
exactly. Yeah, I would say like in 2024, I can't even count how many houses I sold that were not on MLS, and where the land was not on MLS. It
Right.
was like, through our network, through our relationships, we were able to source and find land and properties for people, and, put them in touch with the right builder. And,
A
yeah,
lot of the
it's just,
builders only put their spec homes on MLS. So
yeah,
like I know we'll often put listings up that have a house on on land to get the phone ringing, to give people ideas, whatever. But
Mhm.
often it's, let's sit down and see what lots this builder has and what plans they have, and let's see if we can make it work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that pretty much sums it up for me.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Until next time.
Awesome.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah. Hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, and please hit that subscribe button, and yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Sounds good.
Peace out.
Peace out. Bye.